Hey, Salina. Uh-oh.
Hey, Nikki. Smooth as ever, like butter.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's Extra Sugar. So in this week's main episode, we covered a smorgasbord. I just really wanted to use that word. A smorgasbord of Sex and the City episodes. I also will tell everyone that I rewrote this, unedited it, and took out all of my double entendres that I had in because it started to feel cheesy, but I had double entendres written all the way through.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh.
I took them out. It felt cheesy.
Oh.
It felt very Carrie-esque.
That seems in line with the show then.
I know. I felt weird about it. So Anyway, it was a smorgasbord. It was a taster, if you will. Something that got us in the Sex and the City headspace. So it felt right to us that this week's Extra Sugar would also zoom out a bit, more of a 10,000 foot view. I see, like, for instance, I had it called the Mile High Club. I was like, that's what that's called, right?
Are you going to stop and tell us all the ones?
I think I will.
Okay,
I
good.
think I will. But we thought we'd back out and talk less episode specific and more about the cultural impact that Sex and the City had. So that's how we landed on this segment, which is about the pop cultural impact. My editing is great.
I see how you got there.
This is really a pop culture love letter to Sex and the City. This show was not just another chapter in TV's conversation about women, which it was, but it also shifted the conversation altogether. So we talked about this in our main episode this week, that it premiered in 1998, which contextually is before dating apps, before social media, before streaming. It felt like something cracked open when this happened. See, that kind of also still feels like a double entendre, but it wasn't meant to be.
No, this is good writing.
So the women on TV had been having smart and funny conversations before this show. We did it with Golden Girls. We did it with Designing Women. But Sex and the City built on that foundation and then pushed it a little more forward. We got much higher heels. We got louder opinions. We got way fewer filters on HBO.
Yeah, it's raw.
It was raw. This wasn't just a show about women like we've talked about. It was a show about friendship. It was a show about work, dating, aging, figuring out who you are and what you're willing to tolerate while you figure all that out. And of course, it was spicy. So before we jump into the segment though, Salina, I want to say just a moment of vulnerability for myself. When I took on this Extra Sugar, I actually kind of felt like maybe I wasn't the right person to do it, because I feel like some of the tectonic plate shifting that happened for you watching it as a 19-year-old obviously didn't happen for me. And so I felt like, oh my gosh, am I going to do it a disservice? And then I thought about it like a second longer, and I was like, but actually that might be better, because the things that I'm writing about here are stemming from things I remember not watching the show. So that's how big the cultural impact ripples were, that I know these things and I didn't even watch it. I just follow pop culture. So for me, I just want to say that it's less nostalgia and more like cultural memory, but I do want you to jump in, weigh in as the resident Sex and the City expert. If I'm getting something wrong, if I'm underselling something, or if I get it right and you think I'm a genius, feel free.
All things, yes.
Whatever you want to say.
Whatever compliments.
As long as it's nice.
Pour them on.
So I have to start with fashion, because that's really, you can't talk about this show and not talk about fashion. I am not a fashionista, but it definitely sticks out as you watch the show. We are going to do a deeper dive on fashion later in the season, tied to our Carrie episode, I think it is. So this is the pop culture, like high level, why it mattered version. So again, for a lot of viewers, Sex and the City wasn't just stylish TV. It was kind of like a reference point. Carrie was a fashion icon. And it wasn't because she followed rules, the whole like no white after Labor Day, or, matching colors in a specific way. Like she ignored all those rules. She did what she wanted to do. So before Sex and the City, when I think about the shows that we've already kind of watched and covered with our podcast, fashion was polished, It looked nice. It was aspirational, but it was all really safe. So like the clothes were supporting the character. They weren't distracting. They followed the recognizable rules of fashion. They were, in a lot of instances, something that you could find in a department store, in a reasonable department store. Sex and the City was not like that. So Carrie wasn't dressing in clothes that you could just walk out and grab. She was wearing very high fashion things. She wasn't dressing to impress men. She was dressing to express herself. We saw that in the Aiden episode where he was like, where are you going to wear this dress? And he pulled it out. And later in the episode, she's wearing it because that's what she wanted to wear. That was her joy. And sometimes she dressed in a way that you could almost guess what was going on in her mind or going on in the series before she said anything. You just look at the outfit and know, oh, this is a messy Carrie moment. Or Carrie's on it and something good is going to happen here. So if Sex and the City had done nothing else, it would have changed pop culture through clothes alone. Thinking back to the Golden Girls, for instance, fashion wasn't just the background. It wasn't something they put on the characters so that you knew that's Dorothy. You know that's Sophia. It was an important part of the show. Designers became household names. Manolo Blahnik. I couldn't have told you who Manolo Blahnik was before Sex and the City. We all know now. Shoes in that vein became status symbols. I think for a lot of girls our age, women our age, buying your first pair of designer heels became a canon event because of Sex and the City. If you could buy a strappy shoe with a certain type of decoration on it, you felt very Carrie. And that was a very big deal. So again, thinking about like designing women, for instance, Julia Sugarbaker would wear clothes that like showed her authority and it established it, but it wasn't something you wanted to run out and buy. It wasn't something you wanted to emulate.
Right.
Sex and the City splits the difference a little bit. Fashion was central to the show, but it wasn't always predictable. You didn't see an outfit and think that is, something Julia Sugarbaker would wear. Carrie's clothes changed a lot.
All over
Even
the map.
Miranda, I noticed with her in particular too, her clothes changed. We go from business suits that I was always expecting her to be very lawyery. And then there was this one outfit she was wearing walking down the street that was denim with a belt. Like I would totally wear that now. It's a denim dress with a belt and these very high heels. And when I saw it, I was like, that doesn't seem like Miranda. But it was because they just wore what they liked and what they thought would be fashionable. So also it's worth saying that the fashion focus changed the way people watch TV. So we stopped like just seeing it. And now there are outfit recaps, like entire websites dedicated to Carrie's fashion. You don't just like watch an episode and say like, oh, there's Sophia's wicker purse. Like you're dissecting it.
Right. And I think that would be even more intense today.
Yes.
Because there is this move where like I'll go and I know if I like something, I'll be able to find it because someone is on that tight of a watch.
Yes. Absolutely. I watched one season. So that's a very nice transition to my last statement here, which is that I feel like Sex and the City walked so like a Gossip Girl or an Emily in Paris could run. I've never watched Gossip Girl, but let me tell you what I know about Gossip Girl. People love the fashion.
It's good.
I did watch the first season of Emily in Paris. And let me tell you what I know about that. People love the fashion. So I said earlier that there are no other shows like Sex and the City on. It was the blueprint for some of these other shows, especially as it relates to fashion.
So a little piece of trivia there. I don't know if you know this or not. And I can't think of her name right now, and I'm not going to do that. But the costume designer for Sex and the City is the same one on Emily in Paris.
Did you say Darren Star was involved with Emily in Paris? You said that in the main episode, and I didn't know that. So that tracks, right? It makes sense.
And in fact, they could not get her back for And Just Like That because she had already moved on to Emily in Paris.
No, I didn't know that. Oh, so how is the fashion on And Just Like That?
It is still very good.
Okay.
It is a different age bracket of women.
Sure.
But like the fashion is still big.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. And you can feel that costume designer and Emily in Paris. Like the clothes on that show blow me away. Mm-hmm. And it is either something that like I would consider removing an appendage to have it, or something that I go, what in God's name is this?
Yeah.
And there's no in between, really.
That's kind of the Carrie Bradshaw of it all, too. So once you talk about fashion, you kind of have to talk about money too. And this was one of my outstanding questions for you about the show is like, do we find out Carrie is of old money? Because the show glamorizes a lifestyle a lot of times that doesn't really align with reality. So Carrie's finances become iconic, but maybe for some of the wrong reasons. Like she's a freelance columnist, but she's wearing designer shoes. She has this like fabulous Manhattan apartment, but like zero savings. Yeah. And this is definitely in the Charlotte batch of episodes that we'll watch, but that comes into very sharp relief in her breakup with Aiden. Yes. But like, we're not talking about that as a problem. Like it's just part of Carrie, crazy Carrie with no money, going and borrowing money from her friends. So I think that's kind of a weird portrayal. And I would be a little worried that maybe it taught some generation of young women that like money stress is quirky, not something to worry about, which I don't know is the best contribution to society.
Yeah, I hear that. I do want to say the costume designer is Patricia Field. It feels weird to talk about her and not give her flowers.
Great work, Patricia. Also, the show, though, did also talk about money in relationships, whether it's friendships or like romantic relationships, like who is making more money. We saw this when Miranda and Steve have some conversations. She very bluntly says, like, and I am trying to work 16 hours a day to pay for the apartment that you are sitting here eating cereal in. Mm-hmm. So I think that that is a positive contribution of Sex and the City, because I'm not sure that was always discussed super openly on TV, certainly where women were concerned. Mm-hmm. You talked about this concept that women can be single and they can be financially independent and they can also be fulfilled. Sex and the City offered that into pop culture. Not every relationship had to lead to marriage, and that's okay. Not every woman has to have exactly the same career or career path or be working to settle down and become a mom. They could. Charlotte did want to do that, but they don't have to. We could also have a Miranda who's working to make partner and still wants to have a fulfilling personal life. Mm-hmm. So, and then on that note, talking about things. We talk about fashion, but Sex and the City also gave us conversation, and they gave us what you mentioned in our main episode this week, an opportunity to talk about sex openly. Mm-hmm. Women were now allowed to do that.
It's like the height report.
Yes.
In TV format.
That's exactly right. So these women talked about sex with each other openly, analytically, without apology. It wasn't that they were trying to be sexy or that they were trying to teach men how to pleasure women. They were trying to understand themselves. They were trying to understand relationships and just like what is right for them. And that's not something that was happening on TV and in entertainment a lot.
Yeah, and it felt authentic.
Yes. Yeah, like conversation you probably have had with your girlfriends. But like, that's not cool to show on TV, is it? But it is. Mm-hmm. I think also like in thinking about the shows that this might have inspired, I think there's kind of a line from Sex and the City to like a girls type show, which I haven't watched, but I've seen pieces of it where they,
it's there is no girls.
Yeah.
Lena Dunham without Sex and the City.
I think it's also very similar to Workin' Moms. We got a lot of that on that show.
Yes.
And I think that is because Sex and the City helped change the way women were allowed to talk, the vocabulary they used, the giving permission, I think, in a way, for these things to happen.
That's a great way to put it, giving permission.
So it might not have always been perfect. I've tried to limit the amount of background research I've done on the show because I do want there to be some surprises for me along the way. But there have definitely been some criticisms that like maybe we could have talked about power dynamics a little bit more.
Yeah. Well,
maybe
we would have had to been talking about them.
Yes,
You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I'm not sure we fully knew.
So again, yes, that idea of looking at it through the lenses of today versus just appreciating where we were in time.
Right.
But either way, that door cracked open. And then, of course, that means that it can't close back again. So now we're getting to explore these things in TV shows.
I also would say that, yes, I think women were having some of these conversations, but I think in terms of like giving permission, I think it probably opened the door for more women to have more honest conversations about sex, that there were additional places that maybe they weren't going or felt were off limits that maybe were not ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a really important contribution as well.
Mm-hmm. And then I think the last little bit that I wanted to talk about was the friendship piece of everything, which I feel like this is probably the theme of Sex and the City that resonates the most deeply with you. So this is definitely like weigh in. All the time people say, we talked about this ad nauseum in the main episode, like the central romance isn't Carrie and Big. It's these 4 women and what they bring to each other, having the same conversation for the 100th time, but still being there for one another and still just like over and over again, parsing apart relationships, being there when your best friend goes into labor. Those things that like you just don't have with a man. It's very singular to a female friendship. But in that vein, it wasn't that female friendship was supposed to be like a placeholder in some sort of way. You mentioned this with the Charlotte quote, which I would never get right without reading it. But basically where she's like, could we be each other's soulmates? Women became, or this friendship became like the sustaining force for these women. And when they needed support, it was always the women that were there for them. Again, this is when we draw a line between Golden Girls, Designing Women, these shows that we've explored before. They were all female friendship centered in a lot of ways. And the difference here is maybe the tone. So in Golden Girls, you kind of are looking like we've lived through these things and now we have these friendships.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different era of life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The Sex and the City ladies are figuring it out as they go, and you're getting to sort of go on that journey in real time with them versus kind of looking back on it.
And even Designing Women is their work colleagues. Yes, they do become very close.
Yes.
But like they're work colleagues, and it is different than the people that you like literally spend all your time with.
100%. And these women are choosing to be together at restaurants and choosing time with one another, whereas the Designing Women were sort of in a workplace together.
That's right.
So I think that uncertainty of things, that comes up a lot for me when I hear people talk about Sex and the City, sort of like, I keep coming back to the messy Carrie of it all, but just like figuring out life as you're going through it and not really knowing where you're going to end up. You mentioned this when you talked about kind of looking back on Sex and the City as you lived through it the first time and now watching it, going through that and kind of seeing that it's okay to experience these things and figure it out in real time. I think that resonated a lot for people. From my perspective, I would say for young women, I definitely had friends who looked to Sex and the City as this example that like you can be 35 and still not know what you're doing. It's okay. Yeah. It's okay to find yourself to that point. Because like you said, in your early 20s watching the show, you're like, they're so old. But it gave them permission to know that when I get to that age, it's okay for me to still be.
I just want to clarify that when I thought they were so old, I was 15.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
I would have thought they were so old at 19. I would have thought they were so old at 30.
Yeah, I don't know why I changed so much between 15 and 19.
There's a lot of growth. Those are pivotal years.
That's true.
Pivotal years. So being a responsible citizen of pop culture, I'm going to extend that to you too. You are also as well, but you have to acknowledge the flaws. We're going to talk about this more over time. These are big tentpole flaws that I have seen pointed out in criticisms of the show. So it lacked diversity. It romanticized men big who maybe we should have just blocked and not had anything to do with. There were times that it confused with Carrie and Big, I think in particular, it made it look, he was emotionally unavailable to her, but she saw that as he was deep and there was something for her to break through. Nope, he was just emotionally unavailable, and that's not healthy for you. Do you have any other criticisms that you've heard or seen over time that are worth mentioning?
I think a lot of mine will come up when we talk about the dustiness of the show that we have reserved for Miranda's Extra Sugar, actually. And which I have not started to prepare for, but I will tell you this. When I was still in college, I did a whole project around Sex in the City in a women's studies class. And there are many, 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 many things to explore and unpack that were interesting as a viewer, and from the standpoint of like some gender, race, a lot that was left to be desired.
Okay.
That I think they really actively were trying to make up for, and in Just Like That, and that success is considered uneven.
Yeah.
So
I get it. So I don't want to live too long in the criticisms of it, though, because this was supposed to be a love letter to the Sex and the City's contributions. So I think suffice it to say, like, even when you take umbrage with what it did or did not do, we're still talking about it. It was still influential. It changed the language around sex. It changed the language around friendship, the framing of those things, what women were allowed to want and what they were allowed to say out loud that they wanted.
Or just like what they were drinking.
Oh, right.
It literally, people learned what a cosmopolitan was because of Sex in the City. I don't think anyone from our age to like 60 can even hear cosmopolitan and not think about those four women.
Yep.
That's revolutionary.
Theirs were Cosmo chats. The Golden Girls got their cheesecake chats. Like, cheesecake was the Golden Girls things. Cosmo's definitely 100%.
Well,
I do remember.
Darn it, Nikki, you just named the cheesecake chat. Good job.
But like, do you remember like in college going out, like, when we first started drinking, everybody had friends who would just order a Cosmo because that's what they knew. Mm-hmm. And they thought that was the thing that girls were supposed to order. Did you have friends that did that? I wasn't a Cosmo drinker.
I had a beer and a shot friends.
Yeah. Okay. That's
high class.
Yeah. I had friends who would order Cosmos because that's what Carrie did.
I agree. That was definitely in the zeitgeist of the time. That was happening for sure.
So I'm going to close us out. Do you have anything else that you need to hit on pop culture wise?
I think you did a lovely job.
Okay. Are you sure?
Yes.
I'm glad you brought up Cosmos. That should have been in my segment, and it was not. So thank you.
It absolutely was in your segment. We just talked about it.
We just talked about it. Thank you.
And you named our cheesecake moments the Cosmo chats. So thank you.
So Sex and the City did not give us perfect role models, but it did give us permission. So even if you love it, even if you side-eye it, it's worth saying that Sex and the City remains iconic, it's influential, and sometimes it's unhinged. It didn't just change television. It changed the way women saw themselves walking down the street or the way they wanted to see themselves walking down the street. Suddenly, fashion wasn't about dressing for men or for the office. It was about dressing for yourself. It was about dressing for your friends or your mood, or if you were on an emotional spiral, you could dress for that too. It just depends on the day.
It's joggers and a crop top.
Salina's wardrobe. So Sex and the City said, be fabulous, be broke, be late, be complicated, but make it iconic. Was it realistic? Absolutely not. Was it influential? Yes, so influential. We're still talking about it.
Oh, so sorry. I thought you were going to say abso-ducking-lutely.
Abso-ducking-lutely. That, my friends, has been this week's Extra Sugar.